Holy moly, we're live. Good to see you guys. Happy Saturday to you guys. Hope you're well. My name's Ken Pozek. I'm a real estate agent, but all around Orlando lover. Theme parks, life in Orlando, real estate. That's what I'm into, and that's what this show is about. Today, we're going to cover a few different things. One, and we titled this like what a recession would look like in Orlando, and like how will we kind of like get to know when that might show up, right? When's the boom? When's the crash? All that kind of stuff. We're going to dig into some actual stats and things that I think will help you guys make better decisions if you're looking to buy or sell a house, plan for the future, those sort of things. We're going to get into some new neighborhoods that I came across that are popping up that will be coming on board sooner than later. We're going to talk about Disney's 50th. They're releasing a ton of new merch. I'm super stoked about that. And a bunch of Q&A. And so we're going to dive into it. Thanks so much for joining me on this Saturday. The question we always start off with beginning here is, where are you guys from? Where are you guys watching from today? And I'd love to figure out where our audience is from. It helps us cater our content in the future, helps us cater our lives. You know, I know we got a lot of people from the UK, a lot of people from the middle of America, all over, LA, New York, fun times. What's going on, man? Live. What's going on, my buddy? Good to see you. My new neighbor, Johnny Mac, man, from Livonia. What's going on? Laura from England. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. Some of you, plenty of people right here from our own hometown. I appreciate that. That is so cool. We got this casual for Joe from Hong Kong. What's going on? Good to see you. Hey, Dawn from England. Good to see you checking in. I appreciate it. Diana from Philly. Philly. I went to Philly for one day, pre-pandemic when NFL teams were still getting together with full stadiums, whenever that was. And we tried 3 different Philly cheesesteak places, and I went home really full, but it was such a good experience. I really enjoyed it. Oh my goodness, good to see you guys. Paige, what's going on? Going to hang out. If you guys don't know Paige, she helps us run our team. She's our director of operations. She's out riding horses because that's what she loves to do on the weekends, which is awesome. Part of living in Florida. Very cool. Good to see you, Lisa from Edgewater. All right, let's get into this. So first off, let's get into our topic of the day, if you will. I think that the big one here is really important. Is, should you wait until next year to buy a house, right? Number one thing that so many say to me is like, hey, we're just going to wait till the market crashes and find a house, right? And a couple different lives ago, I mentioned to you guys, like, what would a crash actually look like? And many of you chimed in and you said, well, if there was 10% of a reduction in pricing, that would be a crash. And then we kind of went back and we noticed that really the last crash was somewhere between 30 and 35% of home values had dropped. That was an absolute crash. Now, do we think that that's going to happen again? I really don't. But let's kind of dig in and get in a few different stories that I think are going to help you guys make better decisions. And when you're out there having a drink with friends, grabbing coffee, whatever you're doing out there, you can be more educated and be like, you know what? I don't think X, Y, and Z is going to happen. You know what? Because Ken said X, Y, and Z, and here's some stories he used to back it up. So you'll be a more educated consumer. So let's get into this. So we've got, this is a good one. So why waiting until next year by Yahoo Finance? And by the way, I'm putting together show notes for each one of my lives from now on. I've got all of these links after this posts up as live. I'm going to make these links so that you guys can go back and read them on your own. So you can follow up and read them if you'd like to. But you start looking back and you say, okay, so average home values, median, for the past year, nationwide, went up 23% year over year, which seems unrealistic and unsustainable, which you would not be incorrect if that was the case of you saying that. But then they started falling in terms of number of home sales for about 4 months. A lot of that had to do with because new construction was getting backed up. There was just enough homes for buyers to eat up. It wasn't that there wasn't demand because the amount of homes didn't go up. It was just the number of sales came down a little bit. And so some buyers basically think, hey, should I wait until next year? And so this thing goes into and says, here's some reasons why you shouldn't. And I wholeheartedly agree with this article. Is like, interest rates will be higher next year. And let's actually, think about that. Let's just stop for a quick second and talk a little bit about interest rates. So I just did some normal math here, super simple kind of stuff. So home values in Orlando right now, on average, somewhere in the 350 range. but let's call it 400 to make the numbers easy. And interest rates right now, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. That should be good. Interest rates are right around 3.25 for a 30-year fixed. So just your monthly payment and interest, right? Not counting your taxes and insurance, because honestly, in a recession, your taxes are pretty much going to stay roughly the same until the tax assessor's office comes back around and reassesses. So really, the only thing changing is price potentially and interest rate. Now, we all know as an industry that if we go into a recession, it's because of inflation and a lot of other reasons, but interest rates would start to go up. So if the home values just stabilized and stopped going up and they stayed at $400,000, but the interest rate went to like 5, your payment jumps up $400 a month. But even, let's say we go into a crash and we all collectively a couple weeks ago said, hey, listen, we understand that a crash would be something like if the market went down 30%. And so let's take that off. And if it went down 30%, somewhere in the $300,000 range, what would happen to your payment? So your payment might go down, right? A little bit, but not so much that would cause people to like stop purchasing homes, if that makes sense. So you might save a little bit of money. Let's go back here. So again, if the mortgage payment was on a $400,000 house right now at 3.25, it's $1,741. All right. If the market goes down, again, drops value, but the market goes up, the interest rates go up, you're only saving $100 a month. That's you're saving some money on the purchase price and your down payment's a little bit lower, but really it comes down to like, how long do you plan on hanging on to this house? Are you going to continue renting and spending $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year on rent that you're not going to be able to either write off and or pay down your principal? That's just one idea when you're thinking about, should I wait or should I buy now? Let me see what you guys are thinking here. Greetings from the Netherlands. What's going on? Is that original Spider-Man? That is cool. Michelle, you said you're buying in the Four Seasons 55 and older. We're not selling in mass until March, hoping for no crash. Yeah, I hear that. And March, I mean, in Massachusetts is probably going to be a perfect time for you, right? Because that's when you're starting to hit the spring season. You're going to be good to go. So, all right, let's keep talking about interest rates. So we're all on the same page here. Essentially that even if the market stops going up or even starts to retreat a little bit, but interest rates start going up, and everybody's saying, all the economists are saying, like by the end of 22, interest rates should be somewhere around 4.3% is what they're saying, based on what the Fed. Let me put this back up. Based on what the Fed is kind of signaling, right? So it will be more expensive to buy a house next year than this year on a monthly basis. Housing supply will still be tight in 2022. Bidding wars, because here's the deal. Builders still can't keep up. Like every builder that I talk to, and I talk to literally dozens of builders every single week, I ask, hey, how are supply chain issues going for you? Are things getting easier? They're having harder and harder times finding like stuff like paint. Paint is getting hard to come by. You even go to your local Sherwin-Williams, and you're going to notice that they're not even giving out samples anymore. Like you can bring the little card home with you, but it's like to say, hey, I want to get like one of those little sample things. Nope, we're not doing that right now because of our paint shortage. So I don't think that this is going to get better in the next 6 months. I think that it will just continue, and they'll just try to figure out ways to make this work. But like window shortage, garage door shortage, paint shortage, like they're having shortages everywhere you look. And so I think that housing supply will still be really tight next year. This is a good question. If I make $100,000 clear selling my house, do I have to reinvest it into another property, or will I be taxed on it? A, is this your homestead? If it's your homestead, your own property, and you've owned it for 2 years and 1 day, you don't owe capital gains on that. You don't have to reinvest it into another property. Now, if this is an investment property, yeah, you need to either reinvest it into something else and or pay tax on it. One of the two. What's going on from Miami? Good to see you. Yeah, adventures with the stone. So 4.3 is still historically low. You're absolutely right. Again, like I started in real estate in 2003, my first mortgage. I remember signing off and the closer was like, this is a really good mortgage at 6.5. And I was like, yeah, I got a steal, you know? Now here's the deal. I do think that as interest rates go up, that will start slowing the market down a little bit. And when you look at the inflation numbers that came out this week, you know, the Biden administration said that the inflation numbers are going to be temporary. Who knows? I don't fully agree with that, but like, we'll see, right? Before 6 months ago, they were saying, oh, inflation is coming, but don't worry, it's going to be okay. and then they kind of said it wasn't here. Now they're admitting that it's here, but then let's see what happens. We'll see, right? But I look at interest rates going up, it's going to start slowing that down a little bit. And I think it needs to. 24% increase in pricing year over year is unsustainable. And so we have to do something to slow that down one way or the other. Let's keep going on this article here. So demand will stay strong. So they talk about the problem with the bidding war between 20 home buyers is that once the dust settles, 19 of them still need houses. And that's where we're at right now. I mean, a lot of our demand here locally, we list a house and on average, we're getting 8 offers. And so you start thinking about like, what does that do to the people that are left behind? Here's a couple interesting things I thought about when you think about the foreclosure wave, right? Many people say, hey, listen, there are so many people that are in forbearance that need to figure out what they're going to do with their house. I thought this was a really interesting piece right here. So the number of mortgage in forbearance drops to 3.5%. Now, overall, during the pandemic, people were saying, hey, listen, I'm getting this banner, by the way. There we go. In the recession or in the COVID times last year, people were saying that there were like 2.3 million people in forbearance. That number's dropping lower and lower and lower. And I found this article right here, this came out 3 weeks ago, fascinating on like what happened when homeowners came out of forbearance between June of last year and July of this year. So, oops, let me make it so you can see it. 28% resulted in a loan deferral or partial claim. 23% were borrowers who kept making monthly payments in forbearance, perhaps seeing the forbearance option as just in case tool. So big number. 15% didn't make all of their monthly payments while in forbearance, yet exited the program without loss mitigation plan in place. 13% resulted in reinstatements. 10% resulted in loan modification. 7.4% paid off the loan in full, and 1.5% resulted in payment plan, short sales, and deed in lieu. So really a very small number of people actually went into foreclosure and are going to lose their house. But so that's, to me, like some big wave is not on the way. But then when you start looking at the chief economist over at realtor.com, this is what he had to say. He was going through and said, okay, 1.6 people are still roughly in forbearance. 87% of them have at least 10% equity so they can actually list their house. So, if they decided to all list their house at once, forbearance stops finally, the government allows evictions, things start kind of going down the pipe the way that they probably should. 87% of them have at least 10% equity, meaning they can sell, pay a commission, pay transfer tax, pay their title fees, and they're good. It's a big number. And here's the last one I'll show you guys, and then we can move on, different story, different topic. But I find this stuff fascinating. So the current market can absorb listings coming on. Why do we know that? So back in 2008, I thought this was an interesting thing. So back in 2008, there were an excessive homes for sale already, meaning like before the crash, there were already a lot of houses on the market. So in 2008, on average, there was a 9-month supply of listings for sale. So when the market shifted and all of these foreclosures happened, we went to 2-3 years of supply, and that's when the market crashed. Right now, we're hovering right around under 3% or 3-month supply, which is still a strong seller's market. Even if all of these people hit the market, we're still right at 3.4%, resulting in a seller's market. Kind of an interesting thing when you start diving into these numbers. So just, realtors typically say like, now's the time always to buy, I get it. Like it sounds salesy, it sounds whatever. But then if you're armed with data to help you make better decisions for you and your family, hopefully this is helpful. What do you guys think? Grumpy Rich, Brentwood, California. Good to see you. Diana said something. I'm trying to find Diana. As an investment, do you think buying a condo rental at Embassy Suites in Margaritaville near Disney? I'm not a huge condo investment person. Honestly, I think the HOA fees kind of eat up most of your investment. And then when you start adding on the management fees of those condos in those neighborhoods, it gets to be not the greatest investment. Now, if you're, again, when I tell people on short-term rentals, if you're going to buy a short-term rental, do it because you want somebody to offset some of your cost of your free vacation, essentially, and someone else is helping you pay off the asset. It's usually not a winner, like a monthly cash flow thing. You're usually losing a little bit. If you self-manage a short-term Airbnb, or you get bulk and then you get a discount from your Airbnb owner or management company, then it can be a winner. But for the most part, long-term rentals trump short-term rentals in terms of like a pure investment. And so if you go in there understanding that like, hey, like this isn't going to knock it out of the park for me long-term financially, but it's going to help offset my summer home or my investment property so I can go use it. Just understand why you're getting into it and what you're hoping to get out. Yeah, so Steven says, 2008, there were a lot of speculators buying houses who couldn't afford payments and lost homes because of that. Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. I mean, I was an investor in 2008. I was in my early 20s and I was buying houses. They were giving me, any kind of mortgage I wanted, whether I had good credit, bad credit, job, no job. They were just giving everybody mortgages. They were also giving people like 110% loans where they were saying, hey, listen, you buy a house for 400, we'll give you a loan for 440 and give you 40 grand at closing. This is great because the market's always going to go up. And that just wasn't sustainable, not by anybody, unfortunately. So last thing I'll say, I promise, and I'll move on from this whole topic. You start looking at fact sheet from the Biden administration announces additional actions to prevent foreclosures. This came out just 3 weeks ago. This was basically the Biden administration saying that if you have and that's funny because everybody has a different number of how many Americans remain in forbearance, but they're basically saying if you have a government-backed loan, which is if your loan is owned by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, and your bank is then backed up by the government, that they're going to add additional opportunities for you to keep your home and not go into foreclosure. So again, I don't see this tidal wave of foreclosures. I don't see this tidal wave of, moving backwards in terms of property values. I do hope to God that things slow down and that they don't continue to go as crazy as they are, because I don't think that that's sustainable long term. This is a good question. So Star Platinum says, what's the best way to take equity out of your home to buy a rental property? Well, it depends. If you're talking about your own personal property, I think that a lot of banks will give you a cash out refinance up to 80%. Some of them a little bit higher. You just want to be careful with that. But if you have a ton of equity in your house and you want to use some of that towards purchasing another investment property, that's definitely doable. I've got a great lender I can refer you to if you shoot me an email, ken@pozekgroup.com, and just chat about it. Like we're buying an investment property right now, cash, and then we're going to rehab it. It's the whole, they call it the BRRRR method, BRRRR. It's buy, renovate, rent it out, refinance, right? That's kind of what we're doing. And we're going to try to buy 2 or 3 a year. And we're buying right now. So I'm like taking my own advice on this, but that's something that you can do. Yeah, so this is like the big one right here. So, once the foreclosure assistance due to pandemic stops, what do I predict for the Orlando market? Here's the thing. I think that there's a lot of, specifically for Orlando, you have so many people. Okay, let me back up. So in 2008, 2007, all the way to 2004, you had a lot of spectators here buying second homes. So those liar loans that I was just talking about, where you can basically say, hey, I make 100 grand a year, give me a loan. Those don't exist anymore. But back then they did, and people were buying second, third, and fourth homes as investment properties or spec homes here in Orlando. You just don't see that a lot right now. And because of COVID, actually, you have a lot less like international people buying homes. And so before, you had a lot of people from overseas. They would come in, buy second, third, fourth Airbnbs, rent them out. You don't see that right now because they can't even travel here to get into purchase. So I think that, again, the other little hitch for us is like, even when the COVID stuff, the pandemic stuff stops, you're then you're going to have all of these external people that have pent up demand from Brazil and Canada and UK and all over the world that want to buy here, that have not been able to buy here for the past 2 years, that would eat up any of the potential market shift that we might have. So when you look here locally, I don't see there being this big issue. That plus the amount of people moving here, the amount of jobs moving here, I think that we're just going to stay kind of like in a really strong position. Now that might not be the place elsewhere in the world. You might have other places that see a dip, that that are more susceptible to this. I think Orlando is finally in a place where we're starting to see an opportunity to have us be a little bit less susceptible to a crazy recession, at least compared to 2004 through 2009. Liz Ashley says asks a good question. Do I know of any home builders giving incentives for the current environment? Yes and no. Many of them are like, you're lucky to just get a house, but they will say if you use their lender and their title company that they own and get kickbacks for, they'll give you, some of them $5,000 to $7,000 to use their in-house people. But you got to weigh that on, like, are the interest rates and the down payment and the rate and all that kind of stuff the same as if you were to go on your own? Because a lot of times their in-house lender will charge you an extra eighth of a point and a little bit more on down payment, or a little bit more on closing costs rather, and your incentive ends up getting eaten up by those things. So you just want to compare apples to apples. I always tell people with new construction, go in, get their on-site rep to get you approved, because typically most of these builders will force you to anyways to make sure that you're credit worthy, and then go to get a second opinion and then just compare apples to apples. And like my team and I can help you navigate that space as well. Yeah, this is a good question from Laura. So can you briefly touch on fees like condo hotels, why HOA fees vary so much within the same community? A lot of times it's because of this, they prorate them based on bedrooms and size of the unit. So if it's a 1-bedroom, it might be $250 a month, up to a 4-bedroom might be $600 a month. And so a lot of times that's the difference in the size. They consider, like, even though building maintenance, really, they're not taking care of your unit inside. They just prorate it based on sizes. That's a lot of times what happens. All right, Ned Kelly, thanks for checking in, my friend. I was wondering, like, is this guy ever going to show up today? But here he is. Good to see you, man. I've got more stories from you guys. Let's talk about something a little bit more fun, anyways, and more fun to me. Hopefully you agree. So Disney's coming out with their 50th. This just happened a couple days ago, which I'm stoked about. Their 50th celebration merch. I'm going to Disney Springs literally when you and I leave each other today to go get some stuff from the 50th. These are what I'm most excited about. We collect tumblers and stuff like that, but limit 2 per guest. These really cool tumblers I think are pretty dope. You've got this lithograph. I love the colors and everything that they did for the 50th. I'm just like a huge fan. Do you guys know? Have you seen what they did for Disney 25th? The 25th anniversary was, I feel like, a debacle. Like, so this is what it was for the 25th. Gosh, I'm sure somebody was just like, I'm sure people loved it. Maybe, I don't know. I couldn't, this wasn't my thing. This wasn't my jam. But anyways, the merch is out. 50th is coming. They're lining up all these really cool things for Harmonious over at Epcot. And a lot of cool things are happening. If you hadn't heard, Disney's back to doing masks indoors, so in rides and restaurants as you're walking to your table. So some of that has shifted. But in terms of capacity, they keep pushing on that. And so capacity seems to me to be completely open. And I mean, when you go, it's kind of wall-to-wall people. But they are opening up new restaurants again, or old restaurants. They're just finally opening them up. New hotels, all that kind of stuff to me, I think it's going to be good for a lot of us. New shows or old shows are opening up again, like Monsters, Inc. Laugh Floor opened up early. They thought it was going to take a little bit longer. They opened that up early. And so I think that's cool. That's really, really cool for us. One thing I thought I'd talk about for you guys, not really a news story, but hopefully you guys dig it. So right here, you'll notice it says the Orlando Reel. And so my team and I have been working on this for a couple of months. And in October 1st, which lines up with the 50th, at Disney World, we're launching a new website called the Orlando Reel, and it's going to be everything real estate, theme park, and life in Orlando. So basically this show, but in website form as well. And we've actually brought on content creators and writers, and we're going to consistently put out new content every single day. We also have a newsletter that we put out every week. So I'm excited about it. It's like I'm still selling real estate full time. That's my gig, right? I'm not a writer. I've got people that I'm doing that they're helping me bring this vision to light. And I'm not trying to like recreate what what are these guys like Inside the Magic and WDWNT that I'm not trying to recreate their website. I'm kind of trying to bring a little bit of a different light of like, hey, we've got all these cool theme parks, which is amazing. I love them. But we've got some amazing real estate and we've got some amazing, backwoods taco shops and like cool little places that you can love being in Orlando without even doing the theme parks, on top of real estate if you're looking to buy or sell, and kind of bringing all of that into one place And so that's our new branding. I'm really stoked about it. So it'll be the orlandoreal.com, and that'll be launching first week of October. So anyways, that's one of my big announcements I'm stoked about. So let's see. Let's ask some more questions, or answer some more questions before we get into some more stories here. So I think purchase limits. Oops, what happened there? Someone else had a question about the Burr method. Oh, here we go. How do you use the Burr method principle? Doesn't the bank eventually say your debt to income ratio is too high? No, not at all. So the Burr method, if someone's renting out the house, right? So I mean, that's the thing. I'm not trying to Burr method my own personal property that I live in. It would be, the Burr method would be for an investment property. So, you know, if a house is worth 400, then we're going to finance 400 of it, and hopefully the rents then cover the payment plus a little bit for cash flow, and someone else is paying off our asset, and then we keep doing it for the next one. And so if the bank notices that the rent pays all of the taxes, insurance, HOA, maintenance, all that kind of stuff, then that's cool. It's not on my balance sheet in regards to just a liability. It's an asset. Laura, I agree. Purchase limits per guest. You know, it's so funny. You watch people that dive into, like, you know, Disney Springs and all these other places, and they, you know, they leave with like massive bags of stuff, and you're just like, you know, you guys are just going to go back on eBay and resell those things. It's not very cool. Actually, I'm curious now that we can say that. Let's see. Let's see. Disney. Oh, here we go. People are already selling the anniversary pin. So yeah, I mean, these are what limited release. These are probably $19, and people are selling them for $40 already. I mean, it's a good side hustle. I actually have a client of mine that this is all they do for a living, is just find old Disney stuff that they used to sell and then resell it on eBay. I'm not going to knock them, but like, I think those are the people. Why? There's a number of things. I should do a tour of my office. I did one, actually. It's on my channel, although I added so much more since then, so I probably should. Speaking of office, I'm super stoked about this guy. So this is my first adult Lego. I got, of course, Thanos to match this guy back here. And so, and I was like, oh, this is an adult Lego. And somebody made fun of me because they're like, Legos are for kids, but it says 18 plus. And last time I checked, that was an adult. So adult Legos. I'm stoked about that one. All right, cool. Let's get back into some more of your questions here. Robert, man, yeah. So I asked this question to people, like, you know, is DVC worth it? And I didn't know the grain flow should be selling soon. I'm gonna check that out for sure. After I put on a question on my Instagram, and if you guys haven't popped over to my Instagram, it's at Ken Pozek, and people were like, hey, I was asking people, hey, tell me about the DVC. Do you like it? Why? And most people overwhelmingly loved it. Like, there wasn't anybody that said, like, I had it and got rid of it because it sucked. Actually, nobody said that. It was either like, I'm on the fence of buying it, or we have been for 20 years and we're going to continue to do it. And so a lot of people have made money on reselling them, which I had no idea you could ever make money on that kind of thing. But yeah, why not? All right, cool. Let's get into another story here. I found this one very interesting. So private equity firm takes over Monarch Tower project in downtown Orlando, buys development site for $11 million. So this is why I think this is interesting. Is A, it's not just like another apartment building. It's an apartment building up top, but then like a high-end resort, restaurants, retail, and high-end boutique hotel underneath. And so they're going to kind of mix the two together. They have, let's see, it's going to be 30-story hotel and apartment tower, 380 rental apartments, and 200 rooms to accommodate the national brand, on top of the amenities and spa, on top of retail, on and on and on and on. And so my question to you on some of this stuff is, like, you know, there's all these luxury apartments. I've never seen a new apartment building recently that didn't say that they were a luxury apartment. And I don't even know what that means anymore. It's just because they have like granite countertops and stainless steel appliances that they're like luxury. I don't even know. But everybody says that they're making these luxury apartments. And I wish that they would sell more of these, because I don't know about you, but like, I would live downtown Orlando for sure if it had, like, if I could have this view right here, but I didn't actually rent it, you know, if I like actually was able to own it. And so there's so many new apartments going up that claim to be luxury, but then aren't. And anyhow, these guys are actually going to be legit luxury to where they're going to be offering out a ton of great amenities. And I think that that's awesome for downtown. The more like really cool stuff that we can have downtown, from retail to entertainment to actually like high-end experiences, is going to be great. Because it's interesting. I have friends that come into town that don't want to stay near Disney. They want to stay like downtown to feel what that feels like. And there's really like the Grand Bohemian next to the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, and it's nice. It was not, it's just okay. If I'm being completely honest, there's no like amazing high-end boutique hotels in downtown Orlando, and I think that there's like missing. So I'm hoping that this kind of starts eating some of that need. Patricia, you endorsed the Lego purchase. Speaking as comic book worker, what? That's amazing. I appreciate your endorsement. I'm going to take that as I should continue. We also got my wife. My wife enjoys building a couple Legos, and we got her the Nintendo, like the TV and old Nintendo thing. So I'm pretty stoked about that. All right, let's see. So Sunil says, do I think that now is a good time to purchase a house, or would prices drop next year? So watch the beginning of this video once it posts up. Overwhelmingly, I believe that now is still the best time to buy, especially if your horizon is at least 3 years plus. All right. Quackenbush says, looking to move to the Lake Nona firm upstate New York very soon. Oh, from New York soon. I think we want to rent there first. How's the rental market in the area? There's plenty of new apartments and a lot of people like me buying places to rent out long term. And so Lake Nona, there's plenty of opportunity to rent if that's something that you're really into. So yeah, I don't think, here's the thing. I'm a real estate agent. I sell homes for a living. And yet, like, if you don't know the area well enough, if you're like, I'm really kind of on the fence if this is really where I want to live, you should rent first. And you can always rent something for a year, break the lease along the way, and it's going to charge you like a 2-month rental fee. So a break lease fee. So if your rent is $2,000 a month, they'll charge you $4,000 to get out. But I think, yeah, renting, get to know the area, get to know the shopping, the day-to-day life in and out of the area. If you're not really certain, I mean, there's some people that are like, I've been wanting to move to Celebration for my entire life and I'm coming. And then they're buying something and moving in, or, hey, I just don't want to have to move twice. I'm going to, make a trip to get to know the area first. And then secondarily, we're going to come down a second time to buy something. And so I don't think there's any wrong way to do it. It's just like what's right for you. But yeah, in the Lake Nona area, there's plenty of places to rent. Charlie says, do you hear about Laurel Point moving from February to this fall? Is that normal? Do you think it's to try to compete with Laurel? Yes, I do. Charlie, that's very astute of you, my friend. Yeah, I did hear that. And the roads are in, and if they can start selling now, why wouldn't they want to start selling now? And so I think Toll Brothers brings probably a little bit higher level of craftsmanship than, like, say, a Dreamfinders does, and that's okay. Like, Dreamfinders is like, I'm building with Dreamfinders right now. I think they build a pretty good product for that mid-level kind of investment, if you will. Toll Brothers is like on the higher end, and so they're going to be able to compete with Laureate Park 2 and also Summerdale. There's like a lot of new neighborhoods coming up in and around Lake Nona, and so I think the quicker that Toll Brothers is allowed to start taking deposits, the better that they're going to do. Yeah, it's good. Very astute of you, though. You're a comic colorist, to be specific. That sounds actually like an amazing job. I don't know if you can say like what brand you work for or what you worked on before, but that is so dang fun. Do I have a management company? So yes and no. We manage for our own clients. So people that buy homes with us, but then decide to make them into rentals, we take care of those. We don't offer tenant representation at this time, but just because a lot of property managers, they don't like working with realtors. And so getting them to call us back is really tough. And then they want to try to pay us like $25 for, it's rough for us as agents working on the rental side. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And so I'm going to manage my own rentals. We have probably a dozen other clients that we're going to be managing for as well, and see where it goes from there. Carmel says, or Carmel, one of the two, says, you drove through Oakland in July and you were visiting from Massachusetts and fell in love with it, but don't see a lot for sale there. Thoughts on that area? I love Oakland, and I think that's going to continue to get better. If you like the David Weekly vibe or like J&J, yeah, J&J, they're like the custom home builder in that neighborhood. But if you like the celebration feel, but you want to be closer to downtown Winter Garden, or maybe like farther away from the resort market, like I think Oakland Park is amazing. What's going on in downtown Winter Garden is just getting better and better, more commercial opportunities. So you're like 8 minutes away from downtown, if that, 5 minutes away from downtown. And so there's just not a lot of resales. Like resales happen in Oakland Park and they get snapped up immediately. Like within a couple days, they're gone with multiple offers. And then J&J Construction, I know they're out of lots until early next year. David Weekly, I think they're doing some lot releases, but not a ton. So it's just a very, very popular neighborhood, which is why you don't see any lots for sale in there. All right, Laura, how long did it take him to put together said replica Nintendo for your anniversary? It seems like a lot of pieces to me. We've got a spot up in our loft where we're going to put it. So I'm going to see how long it takes her to put it together. So. Yeah, Laura, I think, so she says, what communities do I recommend for walkability? Wouldn't want to rely on a car every little trip out? That's a good question. So I think Celebration's becoming more and more walkable. It's got a great little downtown, and then you have a lot more retail coming. So it's going to be even more walkable. Downtown, like Winter Garden is like, golf cart. You can grab a golf cart, own that, make it walkable. But that's Baldwin Park can be very walkable. Winter Park, if you're like on the higher end of your purchase price, can be walkable, but unfortunately it's just not, we don't have a ton. And so if you're like Lake Nona, for example, you have the new town center coming there, but it's kind of like across the road from where all of the main houses are. And so if you're okay to walk like, a mile to get to stuff, yeah, that's walkable for sure. There's also Uber, all that good stuff. Chad, you said, what are the lot sizes being offered in Laureate Park South big enough for pools? It's going to be basically a copy and paste of like options from the old Laureate Park. So some of these lots, the corner lots in particular, are going to have great areas for pools. And other ones are going to be those smaller ones that are kind of like the shoebox lots where you're really just buying the house and the location. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for both. I know I missed a bunch, so I apologize. Just want to get in here. Shut up. Michelle says, you bought DVC 20 years ago. It's just sold to build a house in our new pool, but it's worth every penny. That's good to hear. That's really good to hear. It's interesting. Pool costs are getting so expensive. One of my clients, who's also a neighbor, just mentioned that they just got a bid for $100,000 for like a very basic like hot tub pool cage. Those used to be like $60,000. And so, you just look at like the supply chain on a lot of this stuff is just taking forever and costing a lot more. They're like, hey, if you're willing to pay for it, then cool, we'll charge you extra and you can wait. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Super chat. I don't know why it won't through, but I appreciate it big time. Thank you so much for watching. We're just kind of figure out this whole process. And Helen, you asked, speaking about Toll Brothers, any news regarding their new development in Ovation? Let's get into Ovation and Horizon West for a minute. So there's a new neighborhood. Let me change this over. Boom. All right, so where are we at here? Send, Waterley. All right, cool. Let me give you some context. Can you guys see this okay? Try to zoom in a little bit here, but let me give you some context. So you've got like Disney World all over here, right? So there's Magnolia Golf Course right here. This is the 429 right here. And then this is the back entrance out of Disney. This is Western Way right here, okay? If you take Western Way all the way down to Avalon, this is all Horizon West. This is like South Horizon West, if you will. And so this is the last frontier if you want new construction in Horizon West. For the most part, there's one other neighborhood a little bit farther north, but for the most part, if you want Horizon West and that's important to you, this is where the majority of the houses are going to come in. So I've got this little red dot here posted, and I was looking on the Orange County websites and trying to pull through like what's going on with different developments and all that good stuff. And so I found that this neighborhood was getting ready to move forward towards development. So even just actually last week, they had put through for a lot. So here, let me show you this. Boom. So this is where the neighborhood's going to be. This is Avalon Road that I just showed you. It's this big guy right here. It's 186 acres, and it will have some lakefront here, some lakefront back here, and then this is that Lake County line. So this is actually Ashton Woods. This is going to be coming online probably late next year, my guess is, based on the development that they're coming in. It also looks like they're going to be putting in a road from Avalon to go through the neighborhood and then back to Ovation, which is kind of like over here. So Ashton Woods builds a good product. They are, I live in an Ashton Woods home. I think they build a really good product. And so in terms of builders, they're one of my favorites for sure. They don't have a huge land holding here in Orlando anymore. They sold out for the most part. So yeah, I'm excited to see this one going. So this is going to be right across from Ovation, if you know where that's at. I'll show you real quick. So MI Homes is building homes right here. And you can be to Disney, like this is Disney right here. Like you can be to Disney in 5 minutes from your house, but not have like a massive amount of tourism. So Helen asked, what's going on with Toll Brothers? So Toll Brothers took down the lots right here. This is Hartzog Road. Oops, don't have it on the screen, darn it. There we go. Let me give you some more context before I zoom in. So again, you got Magic Kingdom right here, get the 429 right here, Animal Kingdom right here, and then right down this road. This is, there we go, this is Hartzog. So coming down here, this is where Toll Brothers is building a big neighborhood. So we'll have some lakefront down over here, lakefront over here. It's quite a big piece of land that they're taking, that they took out. So it's going to be quite nice. And then if you come up Flamingo Crossing, this is where the new Disney cast member housing is. This is all built out. The satellite's not up to date, but they have got cast member housing here, new apartments here. There's a Target going in right here, Walgreens, like just every kind of like normal shop kind of stuff that you would need is going to go in right there. So yeah, that's kind of like the update. So in terms of where they're at with Toll Brothers, so I was back there 3 days ago, and I mean, the signs are up, the roads are kind of going in, but they're not nearly ready. And it's not going to be within the next like 30 to 60 days that they'll be coming online. If you want Toll Brothers, really Laurel Point over in Lake Nona is going to be probably their quickest, or in Bella Collina. Bella Collina, they're blowing up out there with different options. And then I think Horizon West would probably be the third in terms of timing. So hopefully that's helpful. Patricia says, DC Comics, this is so stinking cool. Coming down to Orlando, that's awesome. Are you doing, I heard there's like a, is it not Comic-Con, but like what's going on here in Orlando? Is it a convention or what's going on? Oh, we had a ton of people pop in. Yeah, Uber, exactly. We might not have a ton of walkable spaces, especially in like Horizon West. Horizon West is like definitely not walkable unless you live up in Hamlin. Yeah, Uber if you're not going to grab one. Charles says, can I do some man on the streets interviews again? Yes. Let me ask you this. If you're watching and you enjoy the man on the street, where are some areas that you want to get to know a little bit more of? We just did Celebration. We did Lake Nona. We did downtown Winter Garden. We actually are thinking about doing a Horizon West man on the street and a Mount Dora man on the street. But I enjoy it. So if you guys haven't seen my videos around the man on the street, we basically go into like busier times during the day and we say, hey, listen, do you live here? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Because there's some things that I literally can't say as a real estate agent if I want to keep my license. Like, hey, how are the schools? How is the safety? How is the things like that? But hey, if I ask the question to somebody else that's not an agent, I mean, that seems like fair game. So anyways, if you like that segment that we do, make sure you let us know down in the comments. That's going to be cool. One of my favorite things that we do. Paul, so 55 and older communities priced at $1 million or less. I mean, most 55 and older communities are going to be like 600 or less. So like, I think that Four Seasons by KHOV, it's super close to Disney. It's great. Obviously the Villages is like the Disney World of 55 and older communities, but it's like an hour from Disney World. There's a really great one over in Serenoa. So that's in like Claremont that you can get in like the 4 to 5s. There's a lot of really nice new ones coming up right in Horizon West. Eventually, Pulte will get around to opening up their Oasis, which is a Del Webb community, 55 and older community. They're slower behind Toll Brothers is like, let me just show you guys where this is at. I think it's good for context whether you like 55 and older communities or not. But let's see, zoom out here. Hancock. Too far. Too far. Lake Star. Nope, too far. Western Way. Oh, here we go. Panther Lake. Yeah, probably here. I don't like this view. Let's switch over here. Technical glitch. Here we go. There we go. So I can actually see Avalon. There we go. Okay, cool. So then where these guys are building out is like right around Western Way and all that. So right, you come down this way, and you've got a 55 and older community coming in, and then you've got a Toll Brothers neighborhood coming in right next door to it. And the Toll Brothers started like a year after the Oasis by Pulte, and for whatever reason, Toll Brothers is developing way faster than the Oasis. I would think that Pulte would want to have their 55 and older community like ready to go, because KHOV is like almost selling out of their neighborhood. And so it would be a prime opportunity for Pulte to like say, hey, we're the other option in town if you want to be close to all this stuff. But that's it, man. I think there's a few really nice ones, and I have somebody on my team that specializes in 55 and older communities. So if you want to reach out, just let us know. Yeah, Charlie, you mentioned Toll Brothers, you're going to start building the model in the fall. So I think, yeah, so if they start building their model in the fall, it won't be really up and ready until like next summer, right? But not much on Laureate Part 2 either. So I've been pushing all of my sales people over there. And I had one client mention like, hey, so-and-so over at, I forget which builder it was. It wasn't Kraft Homes, basically. One of the other builders, Ashton Woods, most likely, or David Weekley. And they said, hey, yeah, we like Laureate Part 2 is coming on board in the next 2 weeks. I'm like, I haven't heard any of that. So I'm sorry to call all my builders reps. And they're like, we don't know. We know that the roads are going in and we should be ready to go here within the next like 60 to 90 days, but they haven't had any kind of announcements. Here's a good one. Jeremiah says, what's new to the Dr. Phillips area? So O-Town West is what's new to the Dr. Phillips area. I mean, there's the new high school over there, Lake Buena Vista High School. They've got a new elementary school coming over there. There's going to be a new middle school going over there. It's going to make that whole area super accessible to, like the whole Dr. Phillips area is accessible to so much of Orlando. So you won't have to go up and around like Sand Lake anymore. You'll be able to get off I-4, go down Darrell Carter Parkway, right through O-Town West, right all to these new neighborhoods. And so there's a new Pulte neighborhood that's going to come online next year, right across from their current one, Phillips Grove. And so that's going to be off of 535, or I'm sorry, Apopka Vineland Road. So yeah, that's coming right into O-Town West / Dr. Phillips area. So that area is prime. I mean, like the O-Town West area is going to have 250 houses plus townhouses. Then Pulte's going to have their new neighborhood. And then after that, it's going to be pretty much built out. And so I've been telling a lot of folks, is like a lot of these old neighborhoods like Orange Tree and Bay Hill and all these houses that were built in the 70s and 80s, like they're having this moment right now where people are like, you know what, I'll buy a house for $600,000 that needs to be completely remodeled just because of the location. And so like in Orange Tree, you can get a house in the 4s, gated neighborhood, amazing amenities, good schools, and that kind of thing. It needs a ton of work, but I'm buying one right now there. But we're going to fix it up and rent it out. And I think long term, that's where a lot of people are going to be drawn to, is that Dr. Phillips area, just because of the proximity and all the amenities in the area. Yeah, so this is a good one, Eric. So what's my opinion upon Avalon Park? We're actually going to do a video finally about Avalon Park and Oviedo. I've got an agent on my team that they're specializing in that area, and we want to kind of have a little bit more spotlight on the area. So the nuclear plant is like, it's interesting. Some of those neighborhoods over there, like Eastwood and some other ones, they're suing the nuke plant because of a bunch of different reasons. And so like if you buy a house there, you have to sign a waiver understanding that you're like in that zone and that kind of thing. So, I mean, everybody's going to have their opinion on living near a nuke plant and what that might do or not do. But you can see it from so many areas of Orlando, but it's really going to be your own personal, if you're comfortable with it or not. Yeah, it's Charlie. So, you said you wonder if Laurel Park, going back to, will beat Laureate Park 2 then. In regards to like time to finally hit the market, I think I think Laurel Point will probably start selling at about the same time. It's just like, what's your delivery date? I think that once Laureate Park 2 starts coming online, your delivery date for your house will probably be quicker than Toll Brothers, because just Toll Brothers just takes longer to build in general. They're like an 8 to 11 month build, but their craftsmanship's just a little bit better. So even if Laurel Point comes on board sooner, and then Laureate Park 2 comes on a month or two later, you could still end up moving into your house faster in LP2 than with Toll Brothers. Does that make sense? Yeah. So good to hear, Michelle. So I'm excited for you to come down and work there. Yeah, KHOV builds a good house, I think, for the most part. I don't like that they don't allow independent inspectors right now. They're kind of like, they cut out the whole idea of you bringing in a third-party inspector, but there's a lot of builders that are doing that as well. So again, it's like so much of this comes down to your comfort level and like understanding the risk and reward of it all. So if you have questions on that stuff, like make sure you reach out. Here's a good question from Candy. So can you give us the top 3 cities to check out for young family? Both nurses love Disney, but don't want to be next door with a 1-year-old leaving Miami. So it needs to be near entertainment. Okay, so I think like Winter Garden, Windermere, they're close next door, right? You're 15 to 20 minutes from Disney. Celebration kind of feels like you're living in Disney. So does like Reunion and Davenport and a lot of those places. Lake Nona is obviously fantastic in terms of like near entertainment though. Yeah, I think if you want to be within 30 minutes, like start with those 3, start with like Lake Nona, Winter Garden, Windermere to start. And then if you don't love those, I mean, Dr. Phillips, again, like I just mentioned, depending on your price point, those would all be good. Haines City just has a ton of land left. Like, I mean, Haines City is going to be like Davenport too, right? I mean, so many of them share zip codes and share schools and that kind of thing, but like Haines City just has so much land left. And so if you're looking for like a deal and you're willing to make a little bit of a drive and you're okay with like waiting for some of the more bigger infrastructure to come in, like they've got a Publix now, which is great, but there's not like a ton going on just yet. But I mean, Haines City eventually is going to be, I think, a great value. It's just how long do you want to wait? And because there's so much land, like it's not like it's landlocked where they're like, okay, now we have to put development, we have to, give people amenities. They can just kind of keep going and going until they're forced to. And that could be, 10 years from now. But again, you're buying houses in the 300s, beautiful, like brand new house in the 300s. And there's really not that many places that you can do that anymore in Orlando. And so definitely something to consider. Chad, if you haven't checked out, so say phase 2 is starting to open already. So the Wave Hotel opens in October. You have like the new performance center just opened up. The personal performance center just opened up. There's a lot of new buildings already coming up into phase 2. You can go drive by there. It's impressive. Angelo, do you live in Celebration? I'm curious to hear if you live in Celebration or not. Yes. So speaking of Ovation, they apparently started widening of Fleming's, which will be the Western Way connection to 27. Any word on what retail is rumored to come to the area? So Christy, I mean, really the retail in that area is going to be Flamingo Crossing. So like the Target and the Walgreens and all this stuff that really kind of supports the cast members that Disney has built for their housing. But I don't think there's going to be a ton like right there. You do have a Publix coming right up Avalon over by Waterley. There's going to be a Publix like in Waterley, basically. So in terms of like that, then you're also 10 minutes from Hamlin. You're 10 minutes from like the Target and all that kind of stuff going on 192, like Margaritaville. So the Avalon Park and Ovation area is actually super convenient to a lot of stuff. It's close to Disney Celebration. You're 30 minutes from the airport. A lot of cool stuff. Harrison, do you not know that I'm like basically the biggest Lake Nona fan there is? You should check out some of the channels. Just type in Ken Pozek, Lake Nona. Love the area. I'm a big fan of the developer and everything going on there. I'm building a townhome as an investment there. Yeah, it's a great spot. If you're in healthcare, what a great place to work and live. Yeah, there is. So Laura asks, are there limits on building conservation, or could every green space potentially be built in the future? Yeah, Florida's pretty tough on this. If you go look at Google, let's do this together. Oh, let's see. I've never done this before, so hopefully this doesn't blow up in my face. But hold on. Let's see. I think of conservation in where we have here in Orlando, or not in Orlando, in Florida. I mean, it's basically they're everywhere, and they do a really good job. I think of let's see, even conservation Orlando. All these different conservation spots all throughout Orlando. So you've got the Green Swamp Wilderness Preserve, you got the Kissimmee Chain of Lakes. All of these are these wildlife management areas. There's so many different conservation pieces. I know a lot of this green could eventually, but you've got Kissimmee Prairie Reserve. I mean, there's just a lot of land hidden away specifically for conservation. And you also look at Disney. Disney, every time they want to take over some conservation, they're forced to bank land somewhere else that basically they turn into a preserve. So even locally, Disney has a wildlife preserve that they've used for conservation because Florida has basically forced them to. And it looks I've actually never been. Oh, where's this thing at? Yeah, it's down in Point Siena. So the Nature Conservatory by Disney. Check it out. Might be a good video, actually. Harrison says, I'm thinking about buying above $1 million in Lake Nona. Is that possible here? Yeah, I mean, so you've got, there's plenty to buy up in Lake Nona. So depending on how high, if you want to do Lake Nona Golf and Country Club, they're starting in the $2.5 million range, going up to $5 million. There's, the Toll Brothers neighborhood, they've got a couple smaller gated communities that are 13, 14 homes. You can do that. Laureate Park, in some of the gated sections, there's a few sections that will sell way over $1 million. So yeah, definitely. I mean, average price for Lake Nona is continuing to go up. I'm just moving into Artisan Park, waiting for the appraisal only. I sold a ton of Artisan Park. Recently, I've sold probably 8 houses in Artisan Park. I don't know why that is, but just I've had a lot of people reach out to either buy or sell in there. But it's a great place. The amenity in Artisan Park, for those of you that don't know, it's a section of Celebration. They have their own little bar, their own heated saltwater pool. Just a lot of really cool amenities back there that you get on top of everything that you get in Celebration. So it's a cool little place to live. The HOA fees are high. That's just the trade-off. Keena says, we're retired, just sold our house in San Francisco, just moved to Texas. Now we're thinking about buying another home close to Disney. Is Celebration kind to seniors? So that's a protected class I'm not allowed to talk about. But I would say I lived in Celebration. There's people that are all different ages. And I think that I love the people of Celebration just in general. So it's it's a cool place to live. I mean, you got a lot of people that end up retiring to Celebration, but then you've got younger families too. There's a really good mix of just people all over. And so yeah, I think if you love the vibe of Celebration, the proximity to Disney and all those places, it's a cool place to live. What are my thoughts on Sunbridge? My thoughts on Sunbridge is probably it's going to be the most massive neighborhood development Orlando has ever seen. They have enough land there to build out for the next 30 years. And so it is a little sad because it is some of it, it's not conservation. There's parts of it that are conservation, but there's a lot of trees and stuff they're taking down. But I think the developer is actually taking a lot of time to make sure that they preserve a lot of that. So I think that of the total amount of land, they're keeping 40% of it conservation. So I think it's going to be great. I really do. It'll be something interesting to watch. Now, this is a great question by Candy. So she said she watched a documentary about Celebration homes not being built well because it was a rushed project. Any Celebration residents that can speak on it? So again, I lived in Celebration for 4 years. I've sold probably 100 houses there now. So the early stages of the properties, they did build them very quickly, but there were also really amazing builders there as well. So you had lax building standards in the late 90s. Like today's building standards look like way more strict than they did in the late 90s, early 2000s. So you have a lot of houses that they're not, it's not like they're falling apart, but like you've got single pane windows, the insulation's not super good. Some of the old roofs have now already been replaced because they had to be. And so you have some pockets of Celebration that needed some love. That's just, there's nothing to hide around that. Some of them had mold issues, right, that have been rectified. And so that's why anytime you're building an older house, you want to get a home inspection to make sure that like what you're buying is what you think you're buying is what you're buying. And but yeah, I think you see a lot of people buying these homes in Celebration and they're just completely gutting them, starting over, because really what you're buying into is the community more. I know it sounds so crazy, and it sounds like you need a ton of money to do it or something, because in some situations you do, but people are buying the neighborhood, they're buying proximity, they're buying the feel of, buying into something Celebration or Disney was part of. And so that's it. But then you've got a lot of newer homes in there as well that are just really well built, estate homes that are just like bomb shelters. They're built so well. So it just depends. It depends on where you're buying. This is a good question from Dave. What's up, by the way? Dave, I think you're probably one of my first 500 subscribers, and for that I will be forever grateful. I won't tell everybody where you live, but I even remember we had this big long conversation of where you moved and everything, and you're the man, dude. I appreciate it. So all right, here is where Sunbridge is. So let's see if we can, there we go. All right, so Sunbridge, this is the Del Webb community in Sunbridge. Oh, dang it, I forgot to switch it over again. Let's pull this up. Nice and big. There we go. How good is that Orlando Real logo? I'm so stoked. I hired this company to take care of everything for us, and I'm just so feel blessed to have gotten some cool people. So anyways, all right, so here's the airport up here. And then you got kind of Lake Nona area all right here. And then you've got Narcoossee right here, coming all the way down, kind of splitting our screen right now. And then you've got East Toho is right here. East Toho in Liga. It's Toho. Everybody says Toho. I should get to know that right better. Anyways, all of this land, all of this conservation, all of this green space you see right here is all owned by the Church of Latter-day Saints and being developed by Tavistock. So they've partnered in to redevelop this land. So all of this right here, east of Lake Nona, but then south of Moss Park, is going to be Sunbridge. And it's actually going to span two different counties. You're going to be in Orange County, and then halfway down it turns into Osceola County. So there's a lot of things that they're going to be working through with schools and developments and all this kind of stuff. It's wild. It's wild. So 30 years. I talked to the builders. I'm like, so how long is it going to take you? I'm thinking 10 years, something like that. They're like, oh yeah, we could probably go for the next 30 years. Sounds about right. Holy crap. So they're getting ready to release. They already did the 55 and older community, and then they're going to be doing a new town center and a whole nother new neighborhood. They're bringing in, the list of builders was actually quite extensive, and a lot of the ones that we've all heard of before. Sunbridge. It's going to be Toll Brothers. It's going to be Toll Brothers, Ashton Woods, Dreamfinders, Pulte Homes. It's it's all the big guys, but it's 24,000 acres, master plan community. Here, I've got this little guy here to show you. 24,000 acre master plan community in Orange and Osceola County, 7,000 units, with thousands more planned for Osceola County. 9 million square feet of planned commercial space. And for those of you that are that know Lake Nona, Lake Nona has 4 million square feet of, which is a ton. 4 million square feet of commercial space is a ton. But 9 million square feet of commercial space for Sunbridge. 490 planned hotel rooms, 13,000 acres held as wetlands. So I was actually incorrect. So of the 24,000 of the master plan community, 13,000. So more than half is going to be set aside as conservation of wetlands. And it's beautiful. I did a drone flyover just to kind of check it out. And we were able to do a car ride back over there as well through some of their old stuff. And it's this most beautiful, untouched land in Florida that feels like you're in another country. It's beautiful. So I hope they do a really good job protecting a lot of that. But I think this is going to be really special for the future. Oh, here we go. Steve says, To Pa Ka Liga. To Pa Ka Liga. I get it? Toho. East Toho. East Toho. And then Toho. Here we go. All right. So live in Horizon West, Lakeshide Village, Windermere zip code. Does it make a difference if it's Winter Garden zip code one way or the other? Not really. Not really. I mean, Orlando is kind of a weird thing where you've got like 34787 is Winter Garden, but that includes most of Horizon West. But then Horizon West is also partly in Windermere 34786. So it's a little confusing because if people are like, oh, I live in Horizon West, and you say automatically like, oh, you live in Winter Garden. Well, not really. It could be, it doesn't really matter. It really comes down to like the location. Do you want to be closer to Lakeside? Do you want to be closer to Avalon or Hamlin, or what schools do you want to be a part of? Like there's a brand new high school that opened this week in Horizon West High. And then you've got Windermere High School that's also in Horizon West area. So it doesn't really matter. It's just like what matters to you. Also like age, right? So like Windermere has a little bit older houses. They're all 15 to 20 years old, whereas Horizon West stuff's all been built in the past like 10. To Pa Ka Liga. Toho. All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. I appreciate it. I look forward to having you here in Orlando as well. We're over on time. It's 2:07. I didn't even realize. Just enjoy answering and can't comment out real quick. How come you're not allowed to say what places are kind to pensioners, but other places are specifically older to 55s? That's a good question. So like I can tell you like which neighborhoods are zoned 55 and older, meaning like the majority of the homeowners in the neighborhood have to be over 55 and older. They have a certain subset that they legally have to set aside for people that are younger than 55, but for the majority, they're 55 and older. Like they're like deeded that way, like meaning me as a 36-year-old dude can't live in the neighborhood once they reach a certain point. Whereas Celebration, to say they're kind to old people, maybe I didn't understand the question, but like, are there old people living in the neighborhood or older folks? Are there younger folks? All those kind of things. Everybody lives there. But there's no like certain subset that's only for 55 and older. That's what I was trying to mean. Yeah, Joe, for sure. Have you seen the USTA? It's crazy. Such a cool, I don't play tennis, but like I always, when I do tours of the area, I'm always showing off that USTA because it's such an impressive campus. Like what an amazing thing. So, but you could be close. I mean, St. Cloud is super close, very affordable. Moss Park, very close, decently affordable. There's a lot of areas that you can be within the proximity. Hunters Creek, super close, very affordable, all within 15 minutes or something like that. Yeah, no, it's so good. Well, I think that's it. It's 2:08, and I have had an amazing time with you guys this Saturday going over everything that is in Orlando. Make sure you drop some comments below on the Orlando Reel, stuff you want to see about Orlando. What are some things that maybe we're not hitting? You're like, hey, listen, I wish I knew more about this. This would help us make a decision on moving to Orlando or not. Again, I'm Ken Pozek. I'm a real estate agent here. I run a team of agents that are specialized in exactly what you're looking for. So if you're looking for the villages or you're looking for a short-term Airbnb or anything in between, we can help you. Make sure you just hit me up. My email is info@pozekgroup.com. Follow me over on Instagram. I answer all of my direct messages about questions about Orlando. I'm posting about stuff we find here locally as well. Thank you again so much for spending some time with me on your Saturday. I really appreciate it. Hope you're well.